They say every family has secrets. I never imagined mine would begin with something as seemingly innocent as a smile exchanged across a dining table. When my mother married Rohan 3 years ago, I genuinely believed we were finally stepping into stability. After years of watching her struggle through heartbreak and lonely nights, seeing her laugh again felt like a miracle. Rohan was charming, articulate, and attentive, the kind of man who remembered birthdays, brought flowers unprompted, and never raised his voice. To most, he was the definition of a good husband and an even better stepfather. At first, I adored him. He made me feel like I was part of something whole. He asked about my college classes, offered career advice, and even sat through my favorite shows without complaint. Our home was filled with laughter, takeout dinners, and occasional late-night card games on the living room floor. For a while, it felt perfect. But perfection, I've learned, has a way of hiding the cracks. It began with the name, Sonia. I noticed it creeping more and more into our daily conversations. Sonia came up with the pitch that saved our project. Sonia's got a good eye for design. Sonia said something hilarious today. At first, I thought nothing of it. After all, people talk about their colleagues. It was normal. But then came the phone calls, always after dinner, always in the study, with the door closed. He would lower his voice, sometimes laugh in ways I hadn't heard with my mom in weeks. And then, the nights when he'd come home, later than usual, apologizing with rushed explanations, team meetings, traffic, unexpected deadlines. Oddly, those nights often ended with Sonia dropping him off, her car lingering just a moment too long in the driveway. I watched it all quietly. My mother, blinded by trust, never questioned any of it. If she noticed how often Rohan reached for his phone during dinner, or how quickly he stepped outside when Sonia called, she didn't let it show. One Saturday afternoon, as I sat curled on the couch with a book, Sonia stopped by unannounced. She carried a bottle of wine and a loud laugh that filled the room before she even stepped inside. She was striking, confident, poised, and effortlessly magnetic. I watched Rohan's face light up in a way that twisted something deep in my stomach. They chatted like old friends while my mother prepared tea. Their banter was quick, personal, too familiar. I looked at them, then at my mother's back as she stirred sugar into the teapot, oblivious. Something wasn't right. I didn't have proof, but the feeling was growing, like a splinter buried, too deep to see, but sharp enough to ache. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, one thought kept echoing in my mind. From that evening onward, something inside me refused to settle. I began noticing the nuances in their conversations, the casual touches that lingered a fraction too long, the way Sonia laughed with her head tilted slightly toward Rohan, as if they shared an invisible thread only they could feel. What had once felt like harmless workplace camaraderie now reeked of secrecy. It wasn't just my imagination anymore. I began to pay attention, not in an obvious, suspicious way, just enough to confirm what my instincts were already screaming. Every time Sonia visited, she brought with her a confidence that didn't quite match a guest's place in our home. She moved around the kitchen with familiarity, poured herself drinks without asking, and even joked with my mother about how Rohan is such a workaholic. My mother would just laugh, brushing it off like harmless teasing. She trusted Rohan. Perhaps too much. Then came the Friday night that changed everything. It was late, well past dinner. I was in my room pretending to study when I heard the front door open. I peeked through the curtains. Sonia was here again. She was dressed differently this time. No office attire. She wore a casual black dress and carried nothing but her phone. I watched as she stepped inside and kicked off her shoes like she'd done it 100 times before. I crept halfway down the stairs and listened. My mother was out visiting a friend across town. The house was quiet except for their voices, soft, low, punctuated by bouts of laughter. I couldn't hear every word, but the tone told me enough. Later, I noticed Sonia's coat hanging neatly by the door and 2 wine glasses in the sink. The next day, when I confronted Rohan, not with accusations, but with careful questions, he smiled like I was a child asking about shadows in the dark. "You're imagining things," he said, brushing past me. Sonia and I are close friends. That's it. But close friends don't exchange glances filled with unspoken desire. They don't spend evenings alone in a house where the wife is away. And they certainly don't make people like me feel invisible in my own home. I needed answers. So I did something I never imagined I would. I reached out to Sonia directly. I messaged her under the guise of wanting to learn more about the industry. "Could we meet for coffee?" I asked. She replied quickly, cheerfully, and we met the following Sunday. What I found over that coffee shook me even more. She talked about Rohan like he was more than just a colleague. She spoke of late-night talks, shared secrets, and future dreams. Spoken, she claimed, in confidence. "He says he's not happy at home," she said, smiling wistfully. "He tells me I understand him better than anyone else." I sat there, nodding, trying to hold my face still. Because for the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't just a workplace flirtation. It was something deeper and far more dangerous. The weeks that followed my meeting with Sonia were heavy with silence and observation. I moved through the house with a strange awareness, as if every wall held secrets I hadn't yet uncovered. My mother remained blissfully unaware, smiling, as she planned dinners and fussed over birthday surprises for Rohan. It hurt to watch her invest so much love in a man I now saw as a stranger wearing a familiar face. Rohan, for his part, became more guarded. Perhaps he sensed my shift, my quiet distance, the way I no longer laughed at his jokes or joined in the evening conversations. He tried, half-heartedly, to pull me back in, but the warmth in his voice had turned calculated, even rehearsed. I no longer believed the words that once brought comfort. Then came the night everything changed. It was a stormy Tuesday, with rain lashing against the windows and thunder murmuring in the distance. My mother was out late again, an out-of-town training session she couldn't avoid. I was curled up in bed when I heard voices downstairs. I crept to the hallway. Sonia was here. Again. This time the tone was different. Tense. I heard her voice. First, low, uncertain. "Rohan, I don't think we should keep doing this." Her words weren't playful. They were careful, nervous. I tiptoed closer, heart pounding. "I've been thinking," she continued. "It's not fair to your wife, or your stepdaughter. I can't keep showing up like this." There was a pause. Then Rohan's voice, cold, unfamiliar. "You knew what this was, Sonia. Don't start acting innocent now." "You said you loved me," she replied, her voice shaking. "I said what you wanted to hear," he snapped. Silence. And then I heard it. A crash. A muffled cry. I didn't hesitate. I ran downstairs. What I saw will haunt me forever. Sonia was pinned against the wall, her arms struggling to push him back. Her face was twisted in fear, and Rohan, his expression was something I'd never seen before. Aggression, possession. "Stop!" I screamed, rushing forward. The moment shattered. Rohan stumbled back, and Sonia pushed past him, grabbing her bag with trembling hands. She didn't look at either of us as she fled through the door, into the rain-soaked night. He turned to me slowly, breathing hard. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "You misunderstood," he said quietly, voice trembling now, not with fear but rage barely held in check. "No," I whispered. "I saw exactly what you are." He reached for me, but I stepped back. That night, I locked my door and kept my phone close, not just for myself, but because I knew Sonia might need someone who believed her. The next morning, the house was suffocatingly quiet, the kind of silence that comes not from peace but from fear. Rohan left early, not saying a word. His coffee cup sat untouched on the counter, a faint lipstick stain on the rim, Sonia's, I assumed. I stared at it for a long time before finally dropping it into the sink where it shattered against the metal basin, a poetic echo of everything that had broken the night before. Sonia never responded to my messages after that night. I called, texted, nothing. I didn't blame her. She had walked into something she didn't expect. And I had witnessed enough to carry the weight of what she might be feeling. Fear, shame, confusion, all tangled up in the betrayal of trusting the wrong person. I had a choice to make. I could stay quiet, protect the illusion my mother clung to, or I could tell her the truth, knowing it would shatter her. I chose the truth. When she returned home later that week, I sat her down. My voice shook as I told her everything, how I'd noticed Rohan and Sonia's relationship, how it had evolved, how I had seen with my own eyes what he tried to do. She sat in stunned silence, her fingers gripping the hem of her shawl so tightly her knuckles turned white. At first, she didn't believe me. Then I showed her the messages Sonia had sent me before she disappeared. The one where Sonia hinted at wanting to break things off, the unease in her tone, the desperate apology. And slowly, I watched the disbelief melt into devastation. My mother didn't cry, not at first. But that night, I heard her sobbing behind her bedroom door. Guttural, heartbroken sounds that no daughter ever wants to hear. I stood outside, frozen, because I couldn't protect her from this. Rohan came home to packed bags and a letter on the table. There was no dramatic confrontation, no shouting match, just a quiet departure from a home he had poisoned with lies and manipulation. My mother filed a complaint through the proper channels at his workplace. I don't know what happened to Sonia, but I hope she found the strength to speak too. Some stories never reach the public eye, and some wounds are carried silently. But I knew we had done the right thing. In time, our home began to heal. Slowly. Painfully. The absence of his presence brought a strange kind of peace. My mother began to laugh again, not the same way as before, but with a softness that hinted at hope. As for me, I learned the hardest lesson of all, that betrayal doesn't always come with warnings. It wears familiar faces, speaks gentle words, and smiles at the dinner table.